So welcome to the next edition of 300 Seconds from Cannes. And today I'm delighted to be joined by Gordana Buccisano, who is the Global Brands Comms Strategy Director at Rackets. Welcome, Gordana.
Thank you very much.
Lovely to see you.
Pleasure to be here.
How has your Cannes been so far?
Amazing.
Yeah?
Exhausting.
Yes, the heat tends, yes.
Yes, but fabulous, really, really nice. Every time, in the preparation to Cannes, I think there's lots of people that go, oh my God,
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I can do another Cannes and the intensity of Cannes, but it's so rewarding.
Yeah.
So I'm really enjoying it.
Absolutely. And I think anybody that doesn't come then gets FOMO. So we have to come every year in case something happens.
We don't want FOMO.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you for your time today. You've got quite a unique career. I know you spent a lot of time in agencies. If I can say, you were actually my first boss in agencies. So you're one of my favorite people. You spent time at platforms and now you're on the client side.
Yeah.
How do each of these different entities look at growth differently?
Yes, I mean, by the way, the whole career pathing partially was planned, partially was not planned. As you can imagine, in our line of work, there is a lot of a occasion. I talk a lot about optionality, like making sure that you do the job which is not too big. So when something else represents that you really want to do, you can sort of exit and do that as well.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So hence the reason why I'm in all this. I've done the bits and pieces in the different parts of our ecosystem. How do they think about growth? Well, look, I think if there is one thing that is probably the red thread and the common thread between all of these three sort of partners in our advertising and marketing world, that growth is defined in the same way, except that it's executed in a different way.
Right.
And I think that's what the major difference is. Like on agency side, your growth is defined through growth of your clients, as you know very well. You've done quite a number of years in the agency and actually in the growth role. So you know exactly what that means through the lens. It's winning new business. It's showing that you understand your client opportunities, that you increase the scopes in line with their objectives and the solutions. On the platform side is growth is, again, I think there are two aspects to that. It's a lot of growth is defined through the product portfolio, like what are the new innovation that you're going to bring out there, which are unique. So unique product USPs, but also clients. And on the client side, on the brand side, it's all about consumers. It's all about, in our case, because I work for CPG, it's all defined through the lens of, are we growing our brand? Are we really driving that meaningful interaction with the consumer? Are we first choice for our consumers and customers? And so I think, as I said, there is always third party as a part, but I think consumer clients are that red thread, but how you go to market, how you execute the growth is slightly different.
Yeah. Is the view on the client side more long term, do you think, than agencies? So agencies are on this constant treadmill of trying to win new clients. It's quite short term, whereas clients feel there's much of a longer term view on growth.
It's interesting. I think I would say yes and no. It's really funny answer. I think it's a answer which might confuse you, but as much as, especially me in my role as a brand strategist and a marketeer, I always think about long term, right? I have to think about long term because that's where I want to grow the brand equity. I want to ensure that our brands are here to stay, and especially since I look after some very precious brands such as Durex, which is like 100 years old.
Wow.
And the brands which are being in our life for the forever, right? Durex, Finish, Varnish, Nurofen, Strepsil, Gaviscon of this world. So these are sort of power brands. So it's about, these brands are here to stay, hopefully. So it is about long term. However, each category has its own sort of complexity. So in order to drive the growth, you really need to think about, if you're in self-care, the way how we define long-term growth is obviously you need to be on top of mind, sort of driving that mental availability. But I also have to think about seasonality.
Right.
Right. So it's about, winter is coming, where we are in context of Strepsil, what do we need to do? So that's driving very much short-term growth and thinking, what do we need to do for next season?
Yeah, it's very seasonal. Interesting. from your view as a client, agencies will talk to you all the time about innovation and strategy and new ideas and data and tech and platforms. Where do you think agencies can offer the most value to clients? You know, what are the things that really drive your business?
Look, I've having done three part like three different entities in the market. I now sort of really, especially on the client side, fully understand the value of agencies. Team probably when you remove yourself from day to day, when you're in agency, and sometimes when you're surrounded with not great press, or there is always the
Yeah,
talk of like what's the future of agency, the model, and etc. Now being on a client side, the brand side, I really truly appreciate the consultancy and intelligence and the great people that I get to work with. And I
yeah,
think the great partnerships via agency is something that is going to stay, and it's going to become, if anything, more valuable, because as a marketeer, it's really hard to connect the dots these days if you don't have agency capabilities in-house. So
yeah,
I have to rely on a fantastic partnership with my media agency or creative agency or any sort of partners that we
yeah.
work with. So superbly important for us.
And is that what makes an agency truly sticky? It's that really high level consultancy, strategic advice.
100%. And I think, again, I sit in the global team, and then especially from where I sit, I really need to think about everything and everybody. And it's not about a one market sort of focus. It's
Yeah,
about thinking globally. Where are the opportunities? Where the growth is coming from? What's the type of the consumer and audiences that we need to be next talking to, and how do we talk to them? It is impossible to do it in isolation or do
yeah,
it by ourselves. So I think it is that sort of high level thinking that helps me to move the needle and really understand the landscape. Without that, especially in a global position, it's
yeah.
really hard to do my job.
You see many agencies at their best, you know, whether you've been working in them or on a client side when you've been working in pitches. One of the challenges I think agencies face is differentiation or being distinct, you know, distinctly different. How important do you think it is for an agency to have a really clear proposition about who they are and what you're buying into as a client?
Absolutely fundamental, I think. I think we buy into agency culture and agency philosophy in the agency a solutions, whether
Yeah,
it's through the data, whether it's through the content, whether it's whatever they have as their sort of unique USP. So it's yes, absolutely
yeah,
critically important.
yeah. And having been on the receiving end of lots of agencies and pitches, do they feel very different, or are they just bits around the edges?
It's interesting. I think I'm going to answer that question in a slightly different way from usual. People tell yes, there is a variation, but also it depends what you brief. What
Right.
I
Okay.
found out is if the brief is very specific and you know what you want, whether brief is more strategic or a bit
Yeah.
more operational, or you are actually after more efficiency or effectiveness, depends what you are trying to do with your partnership.
Yeah.
I think that's where you get to see the different versions of the agency's
Right.
solution and outputs. So it's what you actually give them as a task that you're going to get quite different answers.
Yeah.
So yes, if it's generic, I'm sure they're going to come,
The,
you would get very similar answer,
yes.
but it's all what you're actually asking them to. It's all in your brief.
Yeah. Okay. We don't seem to be able to have a conversation in our industry right now without these two letters coming up of A and an I. Um, what role do you see over the next 6 to 12 months AI playing for you and your brands? You know, from your agency, I guess.
You mean from the agency perspective,
Yes.
or
Yeah.
it's
How
for us
how
internally as a
maybe
brand?
both what the agency can do and how you're using it internally.
Yeah. Well, look, we've been very proactive in our own AI solutions, and very early we sort of embarked on this journey, AI journey, and got quite a few of the projects internally. Obviously, like a lot of people, we focused initially on efficiency play,
Yep.
which is what I guess a good starting point was. But as we evolve, we kind of now in a position where we had to kind of slow down in order to speed up.
Right.
So we had to sort of we go through the stage of we are fast, we're doing this, and then we had to go, okay, now let's actually find out what's really going on. Let's look at our data, let's look at our structure, go through a bit of fact finding on our side before we embark on the next chapter. In this next chapter, that's where we get a lot of input and intelligence and thought leadership from the agencies.
Yeah.
And that is superbly important, especially in the job that I do, which is strategic planning and comms planning.
Yeah.
That is critically important for me to really develop very well-rounded comms strategies, brand comms strategies.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that. I think lots of brands and agencies are still in that running 100 miles an hour AI, where because you guys started early, you've kind of stopped to think, what can we actually do with this?
Correct.
And how can it enhance humans rather than replacing humans?
Correct. And I think, look, I mean, one of the things that the reason why we had to take it really not slowly. I'm not saying that there's nothing slow about Reckitt, but it's be very considerate. Is the trust, right?
Yes.
So in our line of work and for our brands, trust is the most critical asset. I don't know. It's not as you can't buy it. You can't buy it. You have to earn it.
Yeah.
And we don't
And once
ever
you lose,
want to lose.
and once you lose it, you're done. Yeah. Okay. Having been in agencies for many years and now see on the client side, if you could give agency leaders one piece of advice from a client to them, what would that piece of advice be?
I think they need to be very, I guess, it's that client centricity. Keep the focus on the clients, keep an eyes on the clients, make sure that, the solutions and your storytelling, your culture really pivots around your clients and their expectations. And I think if you don't lose the sight of your clients, I think you're in a really good place.
Because ultimately, as a client, you want something bespoke to you, that's tailored for you, generic things, unless it's processes, that's fine.
Correct.
But everything else needs to be tailored to you.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
It's always about clients, right? That's
Absolutely.
what you and I learned very early in our careers.
Absolutely. I have a very good story about you and I and a client where you had to dig me out of a hole. I still tell that story. That's still the biggest mistake I've ever made in media. It was only 250,000 euros.
We survived. Here we are.
Yes, I'm still here. We're still here. We're still here. So I always thank you for that. At the inception of 300, we ended up somehow with a mascot. And it's a goat with wings. I don't know why it has wings. It's a story for another time. And anyone that comes onto the podcast, we like to ask them who is their goat, their greatest of all time, that person or people across your career that has had either the most influence on you or has helped guide you or helped shape who you are today.
That's a great question. Actually, I don't, it's really hard because my career spans across 25 years, dare I say, and even longer now.
Yeah, that's going to stay mine's longer. Mine's longer than
yes,
that.
And you started.
Yeah.
I think I can't even tell you one name. I think it was a series of people, some of them that sort of reverse mentor me, people much, more junior that I learned so much from and they became my goat.
Yeah.
And also the senior people. I think, look, I always felt about my career and time in the agency is like growing my family. I started with, single, then I got married, and suddenly my family, I have lots of kids and lots of, colleagues and friends in this industry that supported me over the years. So I'm afraid I can't give you one name.
No.
I could give you a list.
A list. If you can send me the list, that would be good. Excellent. Well, thank you very much for your time. Been an absolute pleasure to see you in this beautiful sun. So join us for the next episode of 300 Seconds from Cannes.